So I'm going to talk a bit about the project, just to give you a quick overview, and Andre is going to talk about the case studies with a couple of kind of specific examples of things that we're looking at, and Monique is going to pull together some of the cross-cutting themes across the project. This project, The Creative Lives of African Universities, is about representations and lived experiences of campus life in 4 West African universities. They're multilingual spaces, although historically francophone, and we'll come back to that term francophone in the presentation. The universities, you can see the names of them here: Cheikh Anta Diop, Félix Houphouët-Boigny, Université Abou Mika Lavi, and Université Yaoundé 1. University Yaoundé 1 is officially bilingual, English-French. They were all created between 1957 and 1970, so in the period of independences, very much in the model of producing a neo-colonial elite, a governing elite. They have undergone different processes of Africanization, including changes in the teaching staff, in the curriculum and so on, to greater or lesser extents, and that's something that we're looking at in the project. Since the late 1980s, the period of structural adjustment policies, these universities all face very major infrastructural challenges. Intensive overcrowding. So to give you an example, the literature department at Cheikh Anta Diop, which I visited a couple of weeks ago, is in a building that was built for about 800 students, and they have 40,000 in literature at the moment, so huge overcrowding. Limited material resource, and this is a result of chronic underfunding. There's also a complex relationship between the political power and the universities. These universities are not really autonomous spaces. It's the president who chooses the rector of the university and who chooses the deans. So there's a change with every presidential cycle of the people at the top of the university. So they're highly, highly politicized spaces from in a kind of grassroots way as well. The project has got these 3 strands: representations, where we're analysing campus novels, film, theatre, hip-hop and visual arts. A curriculum and pedagogy strand, which is more historical in its focus, looking at the history of the literature curriculum in particular. We've got a special issue coming out later this year, which has got a great article by Fernand Noulibeto, who's on the call, here talking about his work with students co-creating theatre to kind of critique the university space. It's really interesting work. And then the final strand is student lives, where we're going to be using participatory methods to work with students to explore their lived experiences of these spaces. So the emphasis throughout is on forms of agency, which is just such a key term in decolonial discourse and so on. The kinds of agency that expressive creativity and resourcefulness bring about, and which exists despite these infrastructural challenges. And we're seeking to use traces of that creativity as a kind of archive alongside official discourse about the university, social sciences research about these universities, to respond to this perennial question of the role of the university, in particular the future role of the humanities in the 21st century. And since Monique and Andre arrived, we've been having weekly reading groups where we've been refining these questions further, reading texts from critical pedagogy, decolonial thought, African feminist thought, and work on participatory methods as well. I keep saying we, but I want to give you a sense of the project team. So we have a network of 7 collaborators across the 4 universities who I've been working with on various things since 2016. We held development workshops in Dakar and Yaoundé in 2018 and 2019. Obviously we then had a pandemic. I then had twins. Things got complicated, but we managed to recruit our research associates, and 2 of them have arrived and started work in March, April this year. And Alain Agnesson is hopefully going to be here when he gets his visa in the next month or 2, and they're here for the next 3 years. I'm going to hand over at that point to Andre.
Thank you. I want to do my presentation in French or my local language, Franglais or Dendi. Are you ready? I'm French speaker, but I want to try to present my speech in English. So forgive me for my accent and my mistake. I'm going to present the different case studies, methods we are adopting, and the challenge posed so far. Firstly, the University of Dhaka was founded in 1957 and renamed in 1986 in honor of Czech Anta Diop as University of Czech Anta Diop. So far, Bakarisa and Ruth have worked on students, made film, murals on campus, and music made in this space. They have begun to interview staff and students, had meetings with intellectual third space, and taken part in teaching in the literature departments. One of the challenge is that of Ruth's personality, because she will be on a field where she will not be able to speak one of the local language. This requires self-reflection. As our discussion and readings in our weekly reading group have made clear, we are not the colonial researchers just because the majority of the research team is Black African. We have worked in Bristol and talked about the city and the university connection to transatlantic slavery. Monique and I write about this one project blog. We all exist within coloniality and perpetuate it even in the language we speak in. For University of Abomey-Calavi, created in 1970 during a period of coup d'etat. It is a mythical campus. Its curriculum is actively anti-colonial in same respects. For example, the creation of anti-colonial science such as biology, which is the study of indigenous talisman or sorcery. The methods will include interview, participants, observation, participatory work with students. The challenge for me is that of my proximity to the space and how to reflect on my position within this space. Here we can, as we can see on this screen, it is some example of creativity. This one is a festival of Gari. For someone who has lived in Benin, Gari is the food of middle or poor people. So the students take this festival to deconstruct the image projected by students. We can see somebody eats In this second image, it is right on talent growth. He expressed the refusal to see talent come back on power in 1991. Now, for the case study of Cameroon, I will pass over Monique.
Hello everyone. I am the research associate charged with conceptualizing and implementing the AFRIUNI Project in our Cameroon case of University of Yaoundé 1. And this university founded in 1962 as it was actually established in 1961, but officially became Federal University of Cameroon in 1962 when the Anglophone portion of the country gained independence. It was then later renamed just University in 1972, and then finally split in 1998. This is an officially bilingual university, with the official languages being its colonial languages, English and French. And there's a composite language that's been born out of that, because the Anglophones and Francophones have to deal with each other. So Cam Franglais is born, or as the Cameroonians themselves call it, Bokoto. And this is composite of English, French, and Pidgin English, pretty much married. We have, personally, I'm looking to use a participatory workshop approach. Finally, we'll have, just give you a quick rundown, 40 participants, or have teachers, lecturers of the Faculty of Arts, Languages, and Social Sciences. So 10 lecturers, 10 alumni, 15 students, undergraduate students, and 5 stakeholders. That will be administrative, non-teaching staff, and stakeholders around the community of the university. Plan to use participatory methods, interview walks, and archiving research. Challenges I plan to face, well, being the fact that Cameroon's linguistic divide is very political. We have an ongoing war right now, an Anglophone crisis. So just discussing this might be tensions. I'm also a basic French speaker, not at that higher education level of French. So I know I'm going to struggle, and I'll probably have a facilitator to assist me. To go on, University of Félix Houphouët-Boigny, our Cote d'Ivoirian case study. As Ruth had mentioned, Alan is not yet here because of visa issues of coloniality, I guess. So his case, Ruth might want to mention what she knows about.
So I've been having one-to-one meetings with Alain, and he's a literary scholar, and he's also a quite established poet. He runs his own publishing house, poetry publishing house, and I think he wants to do some work with students, making mini documentaries, perhaps connected to his work running a league of slam poetry across different Ivorian universities. And he's also wanting to write some sort of essay piece around epistemic justice in the Ivorian context. So those are his two kind of main bits of work that he's focusing on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, I will just briefly give you the similarities that cut across the board. Although there are many different directions in which we can take this research across different case studies, and we obviously have very different contextual factors to consider. I being one of the bilingual, not the only one with a bilingual university, but still multilingual campuses across all 4 case studies. Although we have differences in the methods we'll be using, perhaps number of sampling, but we still have some similarities that goes across the entire project. And I would like to just highlight those. I think we are all coming from a similar, or we're all aspiring to have a similar paradigmatic perspective, in that we're going to center the African thought, African research, and cite African scholars. So basically, operating from Afrocentricity as our paradigm. But Because of this, I foresee that we'll have commonalities in conceptualizing in the concept that we use, Africanizing versus decolonizing, and I foresee that we'll also have similarities with regards to a concept that just came up in the course of our reading groups. We're trying to look at practical education as education needs versus strategic education needs, which is kind of born out of Molino's practical gender needs versus strategic gender needs. And we're coming out with the relevance. We're looking similar concepts, similar ideas, such as the relevance of humanities, education on the continent, whether these students actually think studying literature is important to them, or anthropology, based on the SDGs and everything. We will also have similarities in methodologies, although we'll use different methods. I think both Ruth and I are applying participatory approaches and methodology, at least. We'll have similarities in the presentation of findings. We will be having co-authored papers, a special issue, and a timeline of each university that marries into one big timeline of African higher education, which kind of speaks to what I was mentioning. We will also be looking at more creative outputs. Similarly, in my case, probably visual outputs, something similar to what Alan is talking about, and exhibition at the end of the project. So these are the ideas that are coming out at the moment, and the directions that will be similar, cross-cutting. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.